Okay, so let's go next door. I'm going to show you the first tip, which is going to be around using mixed reality.
So follow me through
For the second time, or the first time if you're watching it now.
Um,
So, the first tip was around using mixed reality to give you the full ability. So here I'm using a standard mixed reality headset. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on, and if we just quickly look at the screen, you can see that I'm actually able to run this screen. Hello world. So I'm navigating through this screen via my keyboard. What I'm using, of course, it requires you to touch type, but as we can see by scanning through, we've got the first thing is you need to have a GPU which is over, I think it's a 680 or 780 GPU. So you need some basic GPU to support this mixed reality. Of course, we've got we've actually got the you can use these handheld input motion ones to actually control your screen. So very much like a mouse. So I could click on something like my Explorer or the start button directly from using this controller within my mixed reality component. So it kind of gives you an idea. But this is, powering, 1,000-inch screen, which you can see from going back into the mixed reality desktop component that, there's a 30 milliseconds lag, which is hardly anything. You have very little amount of CPU being utilized. Not even the GPUs really getting touched for using this. And I've got a lot of extra functionality in here. I've got multi-monitor. I've got the ability to, change. You can even use an Xbox controller if you wanted to turn a game into here as well. But, this is giving me the ability to have a 1,000-inch screen from here. So let's just kind of show you what's the standard hardware on here. We've got the mixed reality headset. There's a little hack which I put in which allows you to take the microphone and also the headset. So if you plug a headset in, you can then use it to speak to people. So you could do your conference calls still here in your Zoom and Slack. This mixed reality, as you can see, has got 2 cameras. So there's no webcam or anything around here. So therefore, it's using these cameras for tracking. So no setup. You can use this anywhere. You can just literally plug it in. As you can see, it's just running with a HDMI cable. If we come over here, we've got, so this is a PC, which is running a 980 in it, but you don't need that amount of GPU power. A little hub on top of that is to convert into digital out. So then that allows me to connect that into an amp for 7.1 surround sound, which you don't really need, but you're utilizing it because your kit's already here. So the great thing about having a screen like this is you've got HDR, so you've got the high definition rates. You've got, as you can see, the clarity's, the refresh rates now are fantastic on modern day screens. And this screen is $300 with the 4K screen. So I'm running 4K HDR, as much as you possibly need. And you could move this into your room. All you're needing in the side is a HDMI connection. So if we come around the back of here, you can see you've got a HDMI. I've got 3 HDMIs coming into here. I've got a USB 2 coming into here. But you want the latest standard for the HDMI port because that'll give you more flexibility. So let's go back through and let's give you a bit of a tour of some of the technology side of things. Now that we're streaming. Let's start with
the
the
the Surface,
the Surface
One device.
That's
That's
probably the easiest one to
start
start with.
So
we're
talking about
tech, which isn't
massively
out of date here.
Or we'll start with tech, which is massively out of date. So the first one is
the
Surface One.
Surface One. So this Surface One is
a good
10
years
old. So
we've got
within the Surface One, we've got
still got a
display port.
So that's
plenty enough to actually be able to connect anything into
and create a
second screen straight away.
We've also got
on the other side, we've got a USB.
This is a USB
2.0. So obviously the bandwidth's not as high as a 3.
But that too will still support a display screen.
So we're going to see that on Display Hub. So in theory, with this one setup, you can get 3 screens.
And also from a
tech point of view,
this
is
still got 4 gig.
It's still got
an
i5, which means it's got multiple cores, which means you can still
run something like Docker on there if you want to use containers. So it's still
a lot of kit. So don't disregard older laptops just because they're not new.
So the next one
is if you decide you want to go a little bit new. So looking at size, so this is a
Surface Pro
Go.
So this is about $500, and this gives you everything you need from the latest devices. And as you can see, it automatically logs me in with the hello face, so 3D on the, so you can get better pitch quality when you stream your video chats. You can see here I'm running. Becoming a little bit closer.
You can see I'm running Visual Studio 2019 on here. This is Enterprise Edition.
I've got my Docker
container, so Docker Desktop, which is native Docker running on here.
This is running with
8 gig of RAM. So literally, this has got enough to run. On the multiple cores that you've got, you've got 8 gig, which is plenty for running a modern desktop, desktop replacement.
On the side,
you can see we've got a C,
which means we're going to
need an adapter to actually be able to split that out to do more. So an idea of the kind of connections you're going to probably need is if we have a look in here,
we've got the This is a C to HDMI, and also it passed through for the power, so you still can charge it. And then of course another USB 3 splitter. So again, if you want to then be able to daisy chain that, to be able to plug in your keyboard, mouse, your webcam, everything else that you might want externally, you could easily just plug that on, and then you've suddenly got another 4 connections on something as small as this device. Now, if you're thinking a bit more long term, the advantage with these kind of Surface devices is that you can write on them, which means you can take them into meetings. You literally use the screen to take notes. So here's the
first generation Surface Book.
Again, probably everything plenty for what you need.
We're running an i7, 8 gig of RAM. 8 gig's kind of your minimum you're going to really need to be able to deal with
kind of any
kind of hard graph. And then
also the
great thing about this is it's running an NVIDIA custom GPU, which means it'll actually run the mixed reality headset which you've seen. So
for that,
you need to be able to at least have a display port out and then convert that to HDMI.
That then
plugs in that headset.
But you
also need to be able to have a USB slot to actually be able to plug in the motion controller and everything else what needs to do. As you see with this one, the good thing is you can actually disconnect it.
And now I can use this
in tablet form.
and it's got 4 hours battery. So obviously the battery's plugged into that. But I could write notes on here if I want to. I've got 4 hours of battery on my standard screen. I've got 8 hours battery on here with an extra dedicated GPU if I want anything a bit heavier to solve mixed reality. So again, something like this, which isn't going to break the bank. It's probably $800 if you're going to buy the latest generation. But this. Again, it's still enough to be as a desktop replacement. So when we say desktop replacement, what we're really trying to say is, if we take a little look under here, not as pretty as it should be, you're going to have a desktop something like this, which has got enough power. This has got two GeForce 1080s in SLI, but you don't need that. So if we come back up, so that machine is kind of irrelevant now because I've got my primary laptop which I use for everything. And if you this is probably more than anyone's going to really need. So this is running. This is an Alienware M51. It's out of warranty now, so it's a year old, which is amazing. But this is running 32 gig RAM. Which if we come over here, we can see. You can see the information coming across. So we've got 32 gig RAM there, and then we've got I'm running an i7 which has got 12 logical cores, so plenty of cores for doing any kind of stuff. Let me just check on the screen. Okay, plenty of kit on here. We've also got a 280 GPU, which means gives me the power to be able to run any of the latest kind of VR technology. But also it's enough from a working perspective as well. The way that I've got the three screens, so if we come round a little bit, you can see. So I've got three screens. And to do this, so I've got the ability to kind of have the screens go across and obviously down to my main laptop and then back up again. Most devices will have one connection. So we said the DisplayPort or HDMI out. That's going to give you one screen. So how do you get the other two screens? Well, a device like this has got a HDMI and a DisplayPort, but that's fairly rare. The other option is that you can use a dock that comes out externally. So the downside of a dock means that you're going to you can lose the power of running a GPU on that external dock because it's much slower. And you find things like you have to turn off graphics rendering in your office suite because you may find that sometimes you get blurry kind of pictures or maybe it freezes a bit. So there's a downside of having an external GPU. So these two 4K screens on each side are powered by the NVIDIA. And then I've got a USB-C. If you come down here, and the USB-C then comes out to HDMI. So I've got another HDMI here, and the GPU is built into here. And as you can see, I've got two USBs, one that's powering my external camera. So it gives me a bit of flexibility there. And the center one, which is running at a weird screen resolution because it's a large span one, is running that GPU. So I typically only use that for things like web browsing or light work. The rest of the screens I can use for any kind of heavy duty work. So we look next door at the MR setup. If you don't want to go, so even though that's only about $250 for in that case it was an Acer mixed reality headset. The other option is you could use something like the Oculus Go. So the Oculus Go starts at about $150, and you can still run that virtual reality headset and virtual desktop, which is what you saw me running before, and you can use the little single controller to be able to do exactly the same thing. So that kind of gives you
the same kind of capability, but at a less premium. And the latest version of the Oculus Go is pretty much the full version. So it's you can do anything which you would do with a proper gaming machine setup.
So now we're going to kind of talk about multiple desktop screens, but what happens if you've got something which is a little bit more out of date? So let's
quickly go over to here to look at the older screen. So this is a Surface Book 2 or 3, I think it is. So this is running 4 gig of RAM, which is probably a little bit too low if you're going to be doing containers. You really need to be thinking probably 8 gig, 16 gigs, the sweet spot. 32 is kind of all you'll ever need. I say all you ever need. I know Bill Gates said no one's going to need more than 640k, so we all are going to be wrong at some point in time. So this is running 4 gig, but it's still got an i5 processor. It's still got enough memory to be able to run a number of applications simultaneously across a number of different screens. Now, the great thing about this is, if you're looking at the screen, is that you're not using the display port. We're just using it says super speed, but in actual fact it's a USB 2.0. So the bandwidth is quite limited, but it comes out to this external dock. So this external dock is converting that USB into both a DVI and a HDMI. So that's now powering these 2 main screens up here. So we've kind of gone from having a single screen to 3 screens. And it's probably all you're ever going to need, because this device again is about probably 8 years old. You're still going to get maybe 6 to 8 hours of battery. You can still use it to touch screen. There's plenty of tech now. But there is some other options. The other option, what we can potentially do, is we can pick up a standard iPad that you probably got. And if you look, the iPad is actually similar kind of screen size to the Surface 2. And so there's an application on here which allows you to extend your screen out. Now, you can do that using the standard Lightning connection, as long as you've got a legitimate Lightning cable and plug that straight into that USB slot that you've got. And then it will run there, but it will also run over Wi-Fi. So if you've got this on the same Wi-Fi as this, then you don't need a cable whatsoever, and you can put as many of these devices as you want. So you can have 3 screens just provisioned from your iPads. So that's another top tip. Now, of course, if you're using the MacBook generation, you've got the same kind of capabilities within these Macs. So this is a first generation MacBook Air, which, as we can see, we've still got your display port and your USB. So that would allow us to go out to the same kind of configurations that we've seen today. And then the next one is the now kind of end of line, is the MacBook. So the MacBook only has 1 port, and again, that only has a C. So that C will need that converter that I showed you before to go out to power, and also have HDMI and then USB. So USB could, in theory, then extend out to even more screens if you've got however many screens you've got. So you can still do this with Mac. So let me move over to back onto my main desk and show you a bit more for those people who are using Macs. What else you can potentially do. So if we look over here, we've got a first generation Mac, and you see this. I bought this for $100. And you've still got a 1080p kind of screen, which I know doesn't seem like a lot now. So if I just quickly log into here, so the thing with this machine is it probably isn't enough for to do heavy duty. Should remember my password. To heavy duty
anything heavy duty on,
but it's probably enough for you to do lightweight development stuff. So in this case, hopefully we'll go in this time.
So
we've got allow, always allow. Okay.
So
what you can see here,
not
behaving itself for a second. Always allow.
Okay, so
what I'm using on this is I'm using the screen sharing capability to connect to other devices. So I've got another device. If we come and look down here for a second, we've got a MacBook
Mini.
Sorry, it's not a MacBook Mini, but I think it is a MacBook Mini or MacBook Mini.
And so this
isn't the highest of specs, but actually it's probably enough for anybody to use. So what I'm going to do is, as you can see, that doesn't have a screen. So I'm using the screen sharing capability on the Mac to pixie boot or pixie jump over to that device. So what that allows me to do is, as you can see, I'm now logging in to that machine. And that machine is powerful enough to do kind of everything I need from a development perspective. So I just bring up the Mac. So I bought that for about $200, and I upgraded it to 16 gig off. So you can see 2012, we're coming a little bit closer. You can see that there's an i5 processor, which is enough, and then 16 gig of RAM, which is the memory's the big thing. And memory's fairly cheap, so you can pick a 28 gig DIMMs for very little money. And now I've got, as you can see over here, I've got everything I need. I've got my Docker containers, I've got my Xcode, I've got my IDE which I'm running. And everything else. I can run JMeter here. It's fairly big. Spec enough for that power. And also from these devices which you can see sat around here, I'm also use this as a bridge to use my Mac OS development side of things. So
there's a number
of different apps, like for instance the UFT local, which requires you to connect to a Mac machine to then do all the certification and repackaging. So as you can see here, I've got the iPhone SE, because that form factor is obviously different. So is the first generation, and then I've also got some Android devices. Now Android's a bit more flexible, so you can use an Android device on an Android Studio on a Windows PC. You can also use it on a Mac, of course, and use this as a bridge. So I can use I can use the Android Studio to connect to any Android device, and then I've got all the stuff I need for Apple to be able to connect to all the Apple devices. So I can now use, which is why I've got all these plugged in here, I can do mobile testing quite easily from using this screen, and all I'm doing is plugging that hub onto my Mac web. Now, of course, the main machine which I'm using, of course, I can still use that. I've got Appium here, and I can run an Appium on that local machine. But that local machine has only got 4 gig of RAM. So part of it is for me to be able to do really use any local containers or use anything else, I'm going to need a little bit more power. So that's why I bought the second box and I picked Plixie across. But
it's not just
iPhones. You can do this with iPads. I've got a tablet, an NVIDIA tablet here, which has a dedicated GPU, which actually is probably more powerful than some of the machines that we've looked at today. So you can still use these different devices as well. You're not limited to just using
one or two
devices.
So that's a way of getting your
mobile testing, but also connect the mobiles,
connect all your
stuff from a Mac perspective.
You can obviously have that as many screens. I've got the back of this because obviously at the moment that's using remote desktop, using VNC or the equivalent. So I've still got a HDMI coming out of here, which goes into the back of that screen. I can switch between that, so I can quite easily just navigate across my input. And that would pick up the same screen which we're seeing on the main one, but through that particular screen. So now I'm on a Mac, and again, I get so I'm not really limited on what screen size. They're all interchangeable. So if we go back to DisplayPort, you get my screens again. So I think we've kind of covered some of the advantages of kind of some of the basic devices and what you can do with what you've got at home. The other bits really are what else can you do as far as low cost kind of technology which still gives you some flexibility. So this is zooming in a little bit. This is a AWS IoT device. They're about $30. Otherwise known as a dash button. If you're used to them on thinking, all you do is you hit the dash button, the light lights up, and it sends via Wi-Fi the simple code. So you can go onto AWS and set this up to do anything as a trigger. So this one here, which has got you can see the Mac address on the back. I use to do my Jenkins build. So I just click that and it kick off a build. Or you could use it to do anything else. It's just an IoT device. You carry around with your keys as long as you've got a Wi-Fi connection connected. So the next one, which is actually about $30, is a Raspberry Pi. So the Raspberry Pi is probably the easiest way to kind of get going with something like this, but very low cost, very easy to do. So this one's running Kali on it, which is used for security testing, and it's got poison ivy on it, which means it can I can literally just plug this in via the USB at the side, and it will just get me a password off Windows if I've lost my password or something, or I haven't lost my password. But so you can see there I've got a mini HDMI, which you have to have an adapter to go from small HDMI to big one. So let me show you what that looks like. And here's one that I made earlier, kind of Blue Peter style. So that tiny HDMI, if we zoom into that, you can see that tiny little HDMI goes out. Pull it to a large regular size HDMI. So as you can see here, we're running the latest Raspberry Pi, which is 4B. This has got a quad-core 4 gig RAM, gigabit Ethernet, USB 3, dual screen, and USB-C. So there's quite a lot of tech in there for about $60. So that would give you the ability to run a full desktop Kali install with all the software you need. No problems. You'd be able to run that as your desktop replacement for $60, right? The generation below, which actually I think is probably even better deal, is the Raspberry Pi 3. Now this you can see it's got HDMI, natively sized HDMI, still got your LAN, still got WAN, still got USB, and that's about $30-40. And again, you can run whatever you want on there. The only thing you're really going to be limited by is the size of the memory that you put in the micro SD. So really easy to do, and so especially if you've got a bit of time and maybe you want to learn about Kubernetes or something else. You could easily just give these a go and set up a cluster or something like that quite easily. So that's another tip is the Raspberry Pi, the latest generation if you can. If not, any of the previous generations is kind of the top tip. I kind of guess the final kind of things. You've got if speed's kind of your problem,
you can use things like an external SSD drives. This one's an M2 drive.
If you need
in the performance, you'll find with a lot of containers it is important to have fast disk read write. So if you've got a lasting system, which is one of these older generation ones, you can plug this in and at least get a little bit of performance.
Now,
if you are going to venture into the world of building your own machine,
I think this
is a bit of a difficult one because everything you've just seen tech-wise is probably enough for you to use. So the reasons for building a desktop would be fairly limited, unless it's a gaming rig of some description. There's not really that much good reason to actually run. So this is a 2010 chipset, which is the enterprise Intel chips. As you can see, it's got two SLI connections, so you can have two GPUs in there. So you can have two 2080s stuck together. But again, you're not really going to need that unless maybe if you're using TensorFlow or something, and you need the GPUs, CUDAs, for computer vision. Yes, you might decide you want to do it. And I suppose you've got some flexibility when it comes to putting a lot of memory fairly cheap. But I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think you could do that. You should look at the Raspberry Pi alternative, or even the Surface Go alternative. Both of those are fairly substantial enough to do everything you should do from a dev perspective. Plus, obviously, once we're out of isolation, you can then take those machines with you to work, and you've already invested. So, very limited reasons to build your own machine now. However, I think there's no substitute for VP virtual service. So if we come down here for a second, what we'll see is we can see up here that I've got a HP microserver, which that microserver is it's got 16 gig and it's working absolutely fine for running Windows 2018 server. And then next to it, I've got a NAS drive. So this gives me the ability to stick as many drives as I want in, and also I've got RAID 1. So that gives me the flexibility of if one of the drives dies, which in this case the Cisco one did, I just get a new disk and stick it back in. And at the side of that, I've got the Western Digital cloud, which the advantage of the cloud is that it's not very good with VPN, setting up VPN, tunneling. That just has a mobile app, so I can access that from my phone. So it gives me that kind of 8 gig storage capability, or whatever you want to put in there. Quite good. So 8 terabytes. Sorry. And so you can plug anything in. Like this is obviously not being used yet, but is a 2 terabyte drive. And as you can see here, that's 140 megaseconds, and this drive would be absolutely enough for most machines. If you plug this in externally, that 2 terabytes with the disk space would give you enough space to do pretty much everything you need. Hassle-free packaging at its best. So this was about $50, and that is a 2 terabyte external drive. So if you've got all your images, so your VMs, your Hyper-Vs, your Docker containers, whatever else it is, you can put those in and take with you anywhere you want. And you see, you don't need a power supply, you just plug in USB. So this is 2 terabytes, maybe 4 terabytes is about the right amount. I've got 3 or 4 of these, which I just keep in my laptop bag, and that gives me kind of flexibility to take all my repos and everything else with me wherever I'm going. And my only recommendation when it comes to using the external drives is potentially to look at getting a case for it. So this is a drop case.
drop this on the floor,
and it's pretty
secure. So you can put whatever
capability in there. So I've got an 8 terabyte one in that drive, and then you can just literally take that with you. So you're going to buy storage.
Of course, and NAS
is great because you've got if you're setting up a NAS, you've got the RAID, so you've got the RAID 1 mirroring, or you can Stripe. So you've got the safety that if you lose your connection, you won't lose your connection. So in my case, all I do is I have a few of these scattered around behind my PC and stuff. I've got another one, and I just back these up whenever I get a chance. But you're better off with a NAS drive if you live locally and you're not planning to go anywhere.
But you could start
with something as simple as this to start you off.
So that's my kind of main hacks for today, to kind of give you an idea of things you can do and apps that you can run quite quickly. I'm going to kind of do a bit of a summary just in case you wasn't so you have to go back through the podcast. If you are using you want to extend your screen, the best way is to use an app called Duet, which is a secondary screen, DUET. So this can connect to a Mac or a PC, and it also, like I said before, you can use it for the air as well, so it will literally connect in. So I've got my username and password. It then comes up and it will connect directly into my laptop, and I can then create a second screen. I'd recommend probably not using a MacBook Mini for that, for an iPad Mini, because it's probably too small. But you'll probably find the older generations of the iPad are very useful. Virtual desktop, which we talked about with the Oculus and the mixed reality
headsets.
You can download that from Stream VR.
It's about $20, and that should be fine. With that, the door here, so I'm going to leave you with it. So thanks so much, everybody. Want to go on, Ansel?